This is Dave Palumbo with RxMuscle.com. I'm here at the 2010 NPC Junior Nationals. I'm here with Big Sean Andros and Aaron Jubaka-Singerman, and we're going to do the women's wrap-up of all the festivities here today. Let's start with the women's bodybuilding, and let's talk about the women's lightweight class right off the bat. Marina Lopez, a figure competitor who switched to bodybuilding only a couple years ago, wins not only the lightweight class but the overall. Sean, what did you think of her?
It was a small show for women's bodybuilding. There was not a lot of depth, and I said she was the only competitor that really impressed me top to bottom. She had all the tools to go on to the bigger level where she can compete for a pro card.
Well, I don't think she's the only competitor that impressed me, but in that lightweight class, I think she rather handily dominated. Wouldn't you say, Aaron?
Absolutely. As soon as she walked out, I knew that was the winner. I mean, it was obvious. She was polished from top to bottom.
Now, in the women's middleweight class, Jessica Simonet wins the class there amid a rather controversial decision because I felt that Gail Auerbach, at least from our perspective, possibly had that class won. What'd you think?
Friday night at the prejudging, I thought Gail won, but I don't think it was a ridiculous decision. It was close.
What did you think that Jessica had on her physique that, in the judge's mind, pushed her over the top?
I think she just had a little more balance. Maybe Gail just needs to get a little more developed, refined with her physique. Some of her posing needs work, her presentation. I think she's just a little more advanced.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree and agree because I'm going to say, number one, I believe that Gail is probably a little more developed and conditioned a little better, but I will agree in that her presentation needs work, and a lot of people don't realize that this upper level presentation can sometimes skew you from a win or to a loss. Would you agree, Aaron?
I agree, and I think that her posing was a little shaky. I mean, she looked nervous to me when she came out. But as far as the physique goes, I would have put Gail Auerbach in first.
I think Gail would have been a better match in that overall lineup against the lightweight. What do you think about that decision?
I don't think it mattered. Like I said, I think the lightweight was the best competitor here by a long shot.
In the women's light heavyweight class, Sarah Mathison rather handily wins that. I would have to say that was probably, looking at the scorecards, that's a unanimous win for her. Looking at her in the light heavyweight class, I figured her for the overall possibly until she stood next to the lightweight. Were you impressed with her physique?
I was, but like you said, when she came out on stage with the overall, it was pretty much a pretty easy decision.
Do you think that Sarah Mathison rather handily won this class over Amanda Mika?
Yeah, it was a very weak class, and she was no slouch. I mean, she deserved the win. She could have stood up against some much tougher competitors.
What do you think she needed to do to possibly help her win that overall?
I think she was a little small for a light heavyweight. I think her frame could handle a little more size.
Personally, I think that she could have been a little tighter if her glutes and hamstrings would have been quite as hard as the lightweight. She might have fared better as well. Now, the women's heavyweight class was kind of a little weak, shown in the show. Jennifer Scarpetta won the class, but there was only 3 girls. Were you really impressed with any of the heavyweights?
I'm finding more and more with the heavyweight women, except for maybe at like nationals, they're rarely conditioned, and that was definitely the case here.
Do you think that women's bodybuilding is dying by the lack of numbers here, or do you think that it was just an awkward time of year and people are waiting for the USA?
I think that, I hate to say it's dying, but I think the popularity is dwindling maybe.
Because this is usually a very popular show for women bodybuilding, and it seemed the numbers were a little low, despite the fact that the numbers for the show overall were very high.
Right, I think so, and like you said, the heavyweights, I think only had 3 women in them. 3 women and maybe 5 in the light heavyweights, and it wasn't a lot. So,
now Marina Lopez wins the overall. According to Steve Wennerstrom, she's the first woman to win the overall here at the Junior Nationals since Sharon Marvel did it back in 1986. So that's quite a record, and she should be proud of herself for that. Let's talk about the women's figure division, where Josie Zamora of the Class B wins her class, gets her pro card, and wins the overall, beats probably 200 women maybe?
I believe it was about 280 some. I heard total women, so there must have been about 200 figure.
When you think about the odds of you winning an overall in this type of a scenario, it's almost like winning the lottery.
That's one of the things I always, when figure competitors say, well, why did I get 12th? Why did this happen? I said, it's 25% work, 75% luck at these shows.
What did you like about Josie Zamora's physique, and what do you think the judges liked about her?
I think, I liked her condition. She had good proportions, but in reality, like you said, John Romano says I'm a terrible judge of women. So, and I would have to agree because I can't judge these girls. I don't know what they're looking for.
What I see and what the judges seem to look at, they go by waist size. Josie probably had the smallest waist to shoulder ratio up there. She had an exotic look, and that pushed her over the top, and that's good enough for me. Wouldn't you say, Sean?
Yeah, we had a pretty good crowd there at the beginning of the show in the press fit, and everybody was going back and forth. Dexter Jackson was up there, Tangi Johnson, and we all picked her for the overall win. So I think she definitely stood out. And if you check out the site in the next couple of days, we'll have Sonia Gonzalez interviewing her. Or did you?
I interviewed her.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm trying to steal Dave's thunder here. But we'll have interviews with her, and the other pro card winners will be up in the next couple of days.
That's right. Now, let's go over to the bikini division where Jessica Jesse wins not only her class but the overall and gets her pro card. And I must say, Sean Andros picked her as our first RX girl feature that we had, and it was a good pick.
Yeah, stunning girl. I interviewed her Thursday night, and I was tripping over myself just staring at her. Just walking on stage, she worked it, and from beginning to end.
She's a former Washington Redskin cheerleader, now lives in Florida, I believe. And Aaron, what'd you think of that yellow suit she had on?
Very nice, very sparkly.
Yeah, very sparkly. You sound like Rain Man.
Yeah. What does he say? Underwear. Kmart.
Very sparkly, he says. Well, Jessica Jesse is a very deserving winner, and she told me that she's not going to wait till next year. She's going right on to the pro ranks, and so she definitely deserves it. Great luck to her, and I don't mind looking at her over and over and over again. Let's talk about the women's fitness division where Autumn Edwards wins the women's overall, gets her pro card, and there wasn't as many fitness competitors as I would have liked to see in the competition. However, the quality was good.
Yeah, she had a really creative routine. There was a lot of debate about people either loved it or hated it. It was a Wizard of Oz routine, and it was kind of it was very theatrical. It was a little slower than we might expect, but it was definitely interesting, and obviously the judges took to it.
Well, I taped it at the women's prejudging because I knew it was a little unusual, and we put it up, and people seemed to like it. And do you think that that's what pushed her over the edge, the routine, or was it her physique?
No, she had the best physique of the 15 to 20 competitors that were here by far.
Aaron, having very little knowledge in women's physique development, what'd you like about her routine? Because I know the Jewish people tend to have very good theater acumen.
Yeah, sure. I know a little bit about fitness, but I thought that as far as her physique goes, she had the small waist, right? I thought her routine was interesting. It was definitely different. The only critique I didn't like about her routine was it was slower, and I like the fast-paced routine. So
I like the creativity of it. I thought it was original. I'm a Wizard of Oz fan since I was 4 years old, and I thought she pulled it off well. And I think the whole show was a success. The women's show was tremendous. Marina Lopez won the women's bodybuilding overall tonight. Jessica Jesse wins the bikini overall. In the women's figure division, Josie Zamora wins the overall. And finally, it's Autumn Edwards. Great women's competition here today, over 300 competitors. Thanks to Pam Betts for this entire weekend of grandeur and food and happiness and fun and bad weather, and we lost the electricity, but everything turned out well in the end. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Big Sean Andros and Aaron Chewbacca Singerman with Sally Ann and Allie on camera and light. See you next year.